Victoria had never known a love as consuming as what she shared with Moses. It was the kind of love that made the world feel smaller, as though nothing else mattered beyond the space they occupied together. On Friday night, they would walk along the streets of Victoria Island, fingers entwined, talking about their dreams. Moses, ever the ambitious one, spoke about making a name for himself in the corporate world. Victoria, the hopeless romantic, only ever dreamed of a simple life with the man she loved. "I don't care where we end up," she would tell him, "as long as we're together." Moses would chuckle, pulling her close. "Then we'll always be together, my love." But fate had other plans. One day, Victoria awoke to the shrill ringing of her phone. Groggy, she reached for it, frowning at the unknown number. "Hello?" The voice on the other end was grim. "Is this Victoria Williams?" "Yes." She sat up, an uneasy feeling creeping up her spine. "There's been an accident. We're sorry to inform you. Moses is dead." The world tilted. The phone slipped from her fingers. A scream built in her throat, but never came out. Instead, an eerie silence swallowed her whole. Moses, dead? It wasn't possible. Just the night before, he had kissed her goodbye, promising to call in the morning, and now he was gone? She rushed to the hospital, but the moment she saw the covered body, reality slammed into her chest like a boulder. The coroner confirmed it. Moses had died in a car crash on his way to work. Her heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. In the days that followed, Victoria felt like a ghost in her own life. The funeral was a blur of faces and condolences that meant nothing. The only person who seemed to fully understand her grief was Daniel, Moses' best friend and colleague at work. Daniel had been there from the beginning, but now his presence felt even stronger. He helped her eat when she forgot, sat with her in silence when the weight of her sorrow was too much to bear. "I don't know how to live without him," she whispered one night, tears streaming down her face. Daniel reached out, tucking a stray strand of hair behind her ear. "You don't have to do it alone, Vic." And he kept his promise. Months turned into years, and slowly, painfully, Victoria learned to live again. She laughed, she worked, and eventually she started to feel something for Daniel. But deep inside, Moses' absence still haunted her. Unknown to Victoria, Moses had never died. He had disappeared, forced into hiding under the weight of a crime he didn't commit. Framed for embezzlement at his company, he had been forced to make a decision: run or spend a lifetime in prison for a crime he didn't commit. And so, under the cover of death, he vanished. For 3 years, he gathered evidence, determined to clear his name. But there was one thing he hadn't counted on. Victoria had moved on, and the man standing by her side now was the very person who had set him up. Victoria had built a new life. She had forced herself to move on, piece by piece, from the wreckage of losing Moses. Now, with a stable job and a promising relationship with Daniel, she thought she had finally healed. But ghosts don't stay buried forever. It started with small things, strange feelings, the sense of being watched, and eerie familiarity in the way a stranger moved in a crowd. At first, she told herself it was nothing, just her imagination playing tricks on her. Then one evening, as she stepped out of her car and approached her apartment building, a shadow moved at the corner of her eye. She turned sharply, her heart racing. A man stood across the street, half hidden under the dim glow of a street lamp. His posture, his stance, it sent a shiver through her. Impossible. Her fingers trembled as she reached for her keys. Glancing back again, the man was gone. Days passed, and the strange occurrences continued. At first, she kept them to herself, but when Daniel noticed her distracted mood, he pressed for answers. "You've been acting strange, Vic," he said one evening over dinner. "Is everything okay?" She hesitated. Could she even explain it? The sightings, the unease. It sounded ridiculous. "I'm just stressed," she said finally. That night, she couldn't sleep. Something inside her was unraveling, a deep sense of unease gnawing at her. Then she saw him again. This time, he was standing at the entrance of her apartment complex, just beyond the security post. Her breath hitched as recognition slammed into her chest. Moses. Her knees nearly gave way, but she forced herself to move, walking towards him despite the panic flooding her veins. "Moses," she whispered, barely believing her own voice. His expression was tense, his eyes scanning their surroundings. "You need to listen to me," he said. "You are in danger." Victoria wanted to believe she was dreaming, that this was all some cruel trick of the mind, but the fear in Moses' eyes was real. "They are still watching me," he said. "And now that you've seen me, they'll come after you too." She should have walked away. She should have called security, or screamed, or done anything but stand there listening. But something inside her whispered that Moses was telling the truth. She had spent 3 years mourning him. Now he was here, flesh and blood, warning her of a threat she didn't yet understand. And then Daniel called. Victoria hesitated before answering. "Hey," she said, her voice shaky. "Where are you?" She turned, but Moses was already gone. Victoria barely slept that night. Moses' words echoed in her mind. "You are in danger." But why? Who was after her? And why had Moses stayed hidden all this time? She needed answers. Daniel had always suspected that Moses was alive. He had spent the last 3 years watching, waiting for him to resurface. And now it had finally happened. The call came late at night. His informant's voice was urgent. "Boss, I saw something today." Victoria was talking to a man. I swear, it looked like Moses. Daniel's grip on his phone tightened. "Where?" "Near her apartment." They spoke for a while before he disappeared again. Rage burned through Daniel. He had worked too hard to let Moses ruin everything. The next morning, Daniel showed up at Victoria's office unannounced. She was startled to see him, but before she could react, he closed the door behind him and leaned against it, arms crossed. "You saw him," Daniel said, his voice dangerously calm. Victoria feigned confusion. "Saw who?" "Don't play dumb, Vic." His eyes darkened. "Moses. My men saw you talking to him." Her heart pounded, but she kept her expression neutral. I saw him, but it was brief. I didn't even get to ask him anything before he disappeared." Daniel studied her for a long moment, then gave a slow smile. "Good, because Moses is a liar and a traitor. If you see him again, do not talk to him. Call me immediately. Understood?" Victoria nodded slowly. Understood. But she was lying. She and Moses had spoken at length, and now she knew the truth. That night, Victoria met Moses in a secluded area outside town. His face was worn, his eyes shadowed with exhaustion. "I faked my death because they framed me, Victoria," he said, voice rough with pain. "If I had stayed, I would have been arrested or worse. I needed time to clear my name." Victoria's breath hitched. "Who framed you?" Moses hesitated before saying, "Daniel." She staggered back. No, that can't be true. I have proof. He pulled out a flash drive, bank statements, bribes, everything. But I need your help to bring him down. Victoria looked at the drive in his hand. If what Moses was saying was true, then Daniel had been deceiving her all this time. And that meant that Daniel was dangerous. If he found out she was helping Moses, she could be in real trouble. The next day, Victoria knew Daniel was watching her closely. She pretended everything was normal, even as she made plans to meet Moses again. But Daniel was ahead of her. That night, as Moses waited for Victoria at an abandoned warehouse outside town, men putting on dark clothes suddenly appeared all around him. It was an ambush. Daniel stepped forward, smirking. Well. So you thought you could just come back from the dead and crawl back into her arms and into our lives? You should have stayed dead. Moses clenched his fists. You set me up before. You won't win this time. Daniel laughed. You don't get it, do you? Victoria told me everything. Moses froze. Did she betray him? Then footsteps echoed behind them. Victoria stepped out of the shadows. Actually, Daniel, I set you up. Before Daniel could react, two police officers stepped forward out of the shadows, and one snapped a handcuff on his wrist. In the distance, red and blue lights flashed. Police cars pulled up outside the warehouse, and officers poured out of them, making their way inside. Daniel turned on Victoria, fury in his eyes. You lied to me. No, she said coldly. You lied to me first. With Daniel arrested and the evidence exposed, Moses' name was finally cleared, but the scars of betrayal ran deep. As Moses looked at Victoria, he hesitated. He didn't expect her to love him still, but he dared to hope. Do I still have a place in your heart? Victoria reached for his hand. You never really left, my love. The past was over, and the future was finally theirs to reclaim.